right, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Katie Doherty, the President and CEO of the Kennebec Valley Chamber. I would like to welcome you to this month's Women Luncheon and also our last one of the year. So with that, I would like to thank Maine State Credit Union for being our sponsor for this past year. It's been a great way, and I'm glad they stuck with us as we adapted to this new world via Zoom. So we're really excited that this is our last one of the year. This year sure did fly by, that's for sure. Before we welcome the speaker, I would like to invite you all to attend our Kennebec Leadership Institute graduation next week. It is on Tuesday, December 15th at 5 p.m. via Zoom. It is free to attend, and we would just like to help congratulate our new round of KLI graduates from the program and the future leaders of our community. You can find more information on our website to register. Today's speaker is Michele Pelletier from Performance Foodservice NorthCenter, speaking on how to elevate your voice, presence, and career to the next level. Before starting her food service career, Michele was a corporate tax accountant in Portland, Maine. In 1999, she decided to move back to the area where she was born and brought up to start her new life with now husband, Dan Webster. She began working at NorthCenter in the accounting department in December of 1999. Since then, she has held the VP title in operations, purchasing, and sales. She became the president in July of 2018. Her passions outside of work include golfing, any type of fishing, watching sports, and spending time with her family and friends. Her son Danny and daughter Susie lead busy sports lives, and you can often find her on the sidelines cheering on or volunteering in the concession stand. Please join me in Michele to take the lead.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces out there, so thanks for sharing some lunchtime with us. I'm going to do my best here to share this presentation I prepared because, well, I'd just rather have you looking at a PowerPoint than me during the next few minutes. So we'll get started. So get a little chat here for you on how to elevate your voice, presence, and career to the next level. I guess some advice from my desk to yours, so we'll get started with any luck. There we go. So first, I'd like to thank Katie and the Chamber for having me today, and especially for all of their hard work over the last several months. You know, I think this luncheon was something I enjoyed going to when I started back up with the Chamber, and it was nice to be able to go over to the Senator and break bread and see some friends, and it would have been really easy to just stop doing these in light of what we're all dealing with, which I'm, by the way, not going to talk about much today. But we've, the Chamber, Katie's done a great job pivoting into this platform, and it's actually made it easier for me to join more of these because of my crazy travel schedule. So shout out Katie and the crew, nice work, and thanks for having me. All right, so here's the Webster family. This is my world. Katie mentioned my husband, Dan, and Susie, and my son, Danny, and my two dogs, which are really the people that keep, the two creatures that keep me grounded in my house. No small feat to get the six of us all in one picture together. Yes, my husband is a Webster and I'm a Pelletier. By the time we got married, I had already started my professional career and was unwilling to change my name and all the paperwork and certificates and the like, and he didn't want to become a Pelletier, so we landed on family of Webster, but Pelletier is my official legal last name. We live in Winthrop, and my son Danny attends a private school down in Massachusetts. He is a sophomore. Thank you, COVID, for putting him into the private school system, and my daughter is currently a freshman at Winthrop High School. And we enjoy, as Katie said, sports. I really miss being on the sports fields, watching my kids play and hanging out with the other parents, but you know, it's just our new norm. So we're thankful that golf courses provide for good social distancing, as does fishing. All right, so a little bit about me so that you can understand, I guess, why I'm speaking to you today. I grew up in the greater Augusta area. I was born and brought up in Mayfair, which is a neighborhood over on the east side of Augusta. And during the time that I grew up, and boy, were those the days, right? There were a lot of boys in the neighborhood, and if you can imagine us all running around on our bikes and playing sports and whatnot, I became kind of a tomboy. And if you ask me to go shopping or golfing, I'm going to pick golfing every time. So my mom passed away when I was young, and my father was a banker, and a banker's daughter and an only child. So at a very early age, I learned a lot about numbers and playing cards. And, I think my background of growing up as a tomboy and living in kind of the banking industry, which, as you can appreciate, was pretty male dominated at the time. My love of numbers and golf and sports has really kind of framed up who I am today. So a little bit about my education. I'm a class of 1990 graduate of Coney High School. I graduated from Coney and went on to earn a degree at Bowdoin College with a major in economics and a minor in mathematics. I was fortunate enough to get my CPA degree, or license, I should say, upon graduating with a little bit of studying. Since I didn't go to school for accounting, I had to put a little bit of effort there, and followed that up with a master's degree from Thomas, which I got to give a shout out to my friends over at Thomas College, a great little gem of a school here in Central Maine, providing now professional development opportunities for folks, as well as master's programs and a solid undergrad. So shout out to my friends over at Thomas College. But education has always been important to me, and something that I'm constantly keeping, my nose in a book or listening to something on the radio or internet to help continue my development. So my career, kind of interesting how it all weaves together. I started making Italians at Whipper's Pizza. And I think there's actually a lady on this call, Rachel, that can attest to the same background as me. And it was a fun job. I learned a lot. I would encourage any of you who have young children who are starting to look for their first jobs, if you can, get them in a kitchen, get them washing dishes, doing just about anything from taking out the trash to running a cash register. Great life skills can be learned in the food service industry. So when I was a senior at Coney High School, a friend of mine, Andrew Ryan, needed to get some money from his dad. So we went out to his dad's business, which I had no idea what they did at NorthCenter Foodservice, other than I remember seeing the truck show up at the high school to deliver food. And when we were in Alan's office, I asked him if he happened to have any summer jobs. And he looked at me and he said, well, aren't you, you're planning on going to college after you graduate, right? And I said, well, yeah, I've just applied early decision to Bowdoin. Well, little did I know, but Bowdoin was Alan's alma mater. So that in the world of Bowdoin, it's kind of a big deal to help your fellow Bowdoinites along. So he was kind enough to write me a letter of recommendation, and I actually started my new job on Monday here at NorthCenter as a receptionist. Do pretty much whatever they asked me to do, filing, you name it. If they had a job that I was smart enough to do, I was ready to do it. And so I worked for NorthCenter all through the remainder of my senior year, and for summers and breaks when I would come home from school, all through my college career. And as I was nearing graduation, I was interested in staying in the food service business, but they fired me, which was kind of a kick in the teeth because I loved it at NorthCenter and I loved the people. But Alan, in his infinite wisdom, wanted to kick me out of the nest and tell me to go, build my career and do great things. So off I went to Portland, Maine, and I was hired by another Bowdoin graduate. Funny that the connection weaves through there. And I worked for a gentleman named Peter Chandler for about 5 years at what's now known as Baker Newman & Noyes, doing corporate tax work. And I met a ton of people. I learned a lot about financial statements and how it all comes together. And during that time period, of course, I graduated from Bowdoin with a degree in economics. My dad always used to say that he paid a lot of money for me to learn how to tap a keg, but I really couldn't do anything. Well, I certainly got my education at working at NorthCenter, learning, skills in the back office, and at Baker Newman and Noyes, learning debits and credits and the like, and studied and passed my CPA exam and had a great career going, and woke up one morning and kind of had the realization that I didn't love what I was doing. So I gave Alan and at the time Dave Kroll a call and asked him if I could buy him lunch and talk to them about possibly coming back to work at NorthCenter. And we had lunch, and of course I offered to pay and they wouldn't take my money, and Alan refused to hire me back. He said, I've just sold the company to Performance Foodservice and I'm not going to be here for much longer. And, I'm not going to be here to, help you throughout your career. And I'm happy to help you find a job someplace else doing something else. And I said, no, that's okay. That's what I wanted to do, is come back and be part of this business in this industry, and specifically the NorthCenter family. So I kind of tucked my tail between my legs and off to Portland. I went back home, and I was starting to think about what exactly I was going to do, because I kind of thought that, well, that was going to be a shoo-in. Well, the next day I got a phone call from Dave Kroll, who was Alan's vice president at the time. And he said, yeah, we've had a change of thought process here, and we would like you to come back, and we've got some special projects and whatnot that we need you to work on. So that was in 1999. So I'm on my 21st anniversary here coming up, having found my way back to the greater Augusta area, and glad I did. So this is what my experience has really looked like here at NorthCenter. I started, as I said, a special project manager. It just so happens when NorthCenter sold to Performance Foodservice, the IRS decided that they wanted to audit the transaction, and my specialty at Baker Newman and Noyes had been tax accounting. So there was nobody better for the job to handle the audit of the sale transaction than me, at a much lower rate per hour than I think McDonald Page was charging at the time. So that ended up being one of my first projects, and we managed to get out of that pretty much unscathed. But over the course of my time here, I've spent time in the accounting office, and I was fortunate to earn the position of operations. I've worked in procurement, marketing, sales, and as Katie mentioned, president in the summer of 2018. And I like to joke with my VP of HR that I've never really been in HR, but I feel like I've spent half my career there, because as you can imagine, I deal a lot with people. So that's my food service experience in a nutshell. So on to the advice portion of this talk, and I thought this quote was a good quote for what we're talking about here today, and that is your voice. It only takes one voice at the right pitch to start an avalanche, and I found that to be appropriate for us today. So a couple of things. I mentioned that guy Dave to you that did decide to hire me back those 21 years ago. This is Dave, and that's a pretty good picture of Dave right there. He one day I walked into his office, and you can imagine I was in my let's see, how old was I when I late 20s, early 30s when I came back to work here, and full of it, right? If there was something wrong, I didn't have any problem barging through a door and telling somebody what's going on and what isn't working right. And so I walked into his office one day, and I was hot. Something was wrong. Something was broken. And I pretty much said, hey, what do you want me to do to fix this? And he kicked me out of his office. He looked at me and he said, get out of here. If you can't come in here and give me one solution that I'm going to like and one solution that you're going to like, then don't bother me. So it was from that day on that I learned the lesson of if you're going to present a problem, you need to present some solutions. So I guess that's my first bit of advice is if you can, think about what it is you would do to solve the problem and present it. It may not be the final answer to whatever is going on in your organization, but you you present yourself a lot better when you're coming in with opportunities to make it better, not just laying the monkey, if you will, on somebody else's desk. So one of the other things that I've had to do over the course of my career is learn how to become a better public speaker. And I can tell you that the guy pointing at you on the screen was not a public speaker. God, did he hate it. At any point in time, he would tell you that that was the one thing in business that he liked to do the least. And over the course of my career, I've gotten better at it. I won't say I'm great at it, but I have put myself in situations where I have had to get up in front of a room full of people and make a presentation, or today on this call. And you do get better at it over time, and you learn how to present yourself in a manner that resonates with your audience. So it's still a work in progress for me, but I would challenge that if you are not good at public speaking, it is something that can really open up some doors for you. So find a way to get better at it. And I'm sure Katie would have plenty of opportunities if you want to practice. I'm sure there's different things throughout the year that the chamber could provide you some opportunities to do that with. And the other thing that I would give you advice on with your voice is stay in your own lane. You know, have you ever been driving down the road and somebody just, you know, cuts you off and gets right in your space, and, you know, that level of emotional frustration comes up, and you're contemplating, you know, how much road rage you really want to show your kids that are in the car with you. You know, that's kind of the impression that you give people when you jump in their functional area, unannounced and quickly. You know, stay in your own lane. Well, we have another saying here at NorthCenter. It's called polish your own rock, right? It's important to share ideas, and it's important to collaborate, but I would suggest that when you have an opinion to voice in somebody else's functional area, put your blinker on and merge slowly, and make sure you're entering cautiously, respectfully, and mindfully. All right, Simon Sinek, great TED Talk guy. If you've never listened to him on the internet, I would share with you to Google his name and listen to some of his talks. He's a good one. The role of a leader is not to come up with all of the great ideas. The role of a leader is to create an environment in which great ideas can happen. So this one I think is really important when you think about your presence. And, you know, one of the things that has always been a good practice here at NorthCenter has been meetings. And we have a staff meeting once a week with the VPs and the president. We've done that ever since the company, I think, was created. It's something that we do to stay connected with each other and to stay on the same page. Has it become a little bit more challenging in the environment that we're all living in right now? Sure. But we're getting good at Zoom calls, and we have that same meeting, I think, more effectively now because we can all sit in our own office environments wherever they may be and stay connected. And we carry that tradition throughout the whole organization. We meet monthly with the supervisors and managers to make sure that they're getting our messaging, and I try to be present wherever I can be where the work is getting done. So sometimes that's in a car with a salesperson. Other times it's on the floor down in the warehouse with my steel-toe shoes and my orange vest on, you know, shaking hands and thanking people for what they do and just being present so that they know you're there and they know you care and they know that you understand what they're going through. Lead by example. One of the things that I like to say here at the office is welcome to my fishbowl. My executive administrative assistant, Bonnie Savage, and I'd like to think that we live in a fishbowl. And that means that everybody's watching what we're doing, how we're doing it, you know, how you dress. You know, if I'm walking in the building in the morning and I don't have a smile on my face and I look grouchy, then it's going to be a bad day. And that's the tone that gets set for the building. And that is what you want. So you have to really think about what you're doing and remember that people are watching when you're a leader. And they want to see how you're doing what you're doing because it's going to be okay to mimic your behavior. So I always like to think about me living in a fishbowl and that everybody's watching. And speak last. I like this little picture of this kid with his ears, and what's the saying? God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You always want to make sure that you're listening twice as much as you're speaking. And I would say when you're speaking, you should be asking questions before you're making statements. There's so much to be learned by listening to what other people have to say and really clarifying your understanding of what they're trying to say to make sure that you get the right perspective. All right, another great leader. When you were made a leader, you weren't given a crown, you were given the responsibility to bring out the best in others, by Jack Welch. Just a few thoughts on this one. So my career advice, be coachable. You ever been sitting on the sideline and you see that one kid that it's usually the kid that it's the coach's son or daughter that just is not coachable, and it's so frustrating to watch. Well, the same holds true in a boardroom or in an office. And when you can't be coached, then you're going to stop growing. I think it was one of the hardest things for me as a perfectionist to have people tell me that I didn't necessarily do something right or I didn't do it to the best of my ability. Those words can be oftentimes hard to hear, but yet you have to remember that those people cared enough to give you that feedback only to make you better. And when you think of it in that perspective, it makes it a little bit more palatable. So my advice to you would be coachable and develop yourself. And this is one that, boy, I've always been passionate about education and working to improve myself, something that just has come naturally to me. But I'll share with you a little story about an associate that came to me a couple of years ago, and they had been, passed over for a promotion and were concerned that the company hadn't spent enough time developing their skill set. And, this presentation to me about what the company had failed to do went on for a little bit of time in my office. And I finally stopped the individual and I said, at what point in time did you think that your personal development was our responsibility? It's your responsibility. Yeah, the company has some block and tackle ownership in what you do and making sure that you know where to turn the computer on and how to find the files and where the pens and paper are. But at the end of the day, your personal development is your responsibility, and you need to put the time and effort into that if you want to grow. And this is maybe a little bit more for my female friends out there. When I was young and in my career, if I didn't quite get back to somebody quickly, I was always quick to apologize, right? Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you quickly. I'm sorry I didn't, return that email within 24 hours. And sometimes when I would get a new job or something good would happen to me, I'd feel a bit sorry about it. And I read somewhere where women tend to apologize more than men. And I thought about that and I said, you know what? I'm a busy girl. I'm going to stop apologizing when I don't get right back to you on that email, because it's okay to get back to you tomorrow morning if I didn't get to it today. And I'm not going to feel bad if I got the job because I worked hard and I got the promotion and somebody else didn't. I'm going to sit back and enjoy the fact that I won. I'm not going to relish in somebody else's failure, but I'm not going to apologize for my own success. So that would be my one bit of advice is in your career, try to remember not to be sorry. It's okay that you have to manage your time. And if you're not on somebody else's schedule all the time, that's okay. Don't be sorry. So ability is what you're capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do, and attitude determines how well you do it. My favorite coach of all time, Lou Holtz. So I figured that I would stop here and see if you guys had any questions. It's brief. My moments of wisdom are over.
Perfect. So people can put questions in the chat box, or feel free to unmute yourself as well, and we can start dialogue if anyone has questions or comments for Michele.
I stop sharing, then I can see all your lovely faces.
All right, I don't see anything in the chat box. Anybody have any questions or
You guys
comments?
are being kind to me.
Can you tell us a little bit more about PFG, number of employees and that kind of side of stuff? Pat Ladd would like to know.
Sure. Hi, Pat. Nice to see you here today. So Performance Foodservice is a distribution facility that services restaurants, colleges, universities, hospitals, you name it, in Maine, most of New Hampshire, and the North Shore of Massachusetts. We have probably right around 320 associates right now. That can fluctuate quite a bit during the summertime, which is obviously our busy time when all the tourists are here. And yeah, I like to think that we're Augusta's best kept secret. We have a 200,000 square foot facility down off of Riverside Drive in Augusta. And yeah, it's a little bit about PFG.
Katie, can I ask a question?
Go for it.
Hi, Michele. Thanks so much for being with us today. I was looking forward to this and getting on and taking some time away from the normal crazy schedule that we have. But, you know, I think, can you speak to a little bit about, you know, I appreciated when you talked about how you wouldn't have, not apologizing for not getting right back or not doing something as fast as people might expect it. That kind of goes along with being a mom and juggling everything. And I once heard a woman say, you know, we can do it all. And I was like, yeah, no, we can't. Yeah, I think you know, how do you deal with feeling like many things are not done as well as you want them to do? Do you have some tools for how you manage your own personal feelings about that and guilt and going on and resetting the next day? Because you seem to do things very well in that way from what I can see of you.
Well, thank you. I'm putting up a great smoke screen, I guess. I think the first thing that I would say is forget the house is going to be clean, right? There's many of you here on this phone call that have been to my house. And you know what? There's dog hair on the floor and the dishes aren't always done. But my family is happy and healthy, and that one was one that I had to learn to just let it go, because whether or not you have a clean house is not reflective. It's not gonna help your career at all, right? Clean house does not help your career. Just don't invite your bosses over if it's filthy dirty. So that was once I let that go, that opened up a whole bunch of stuff, right? You definitely. For me, having a good spouse is helpful. My husband, Dan, is amazing. He is coming up on his 30th year at the Department of Transportation, and he does a lot of the Mr. Mom stuff. So we don't always have traditional roles in our house. It's not uncommon for him to be the person running a child back and forth to a dentist or orthodontist or whatever appointment might be had. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's him, and honestly, it could be any family member. I got over the barrier to asking for help a long time ago. If you need help to get a kid to a dentist appointment, it's okay to call grandma. She'd probably just as soon have some time to spend with them one-on-one and not have you in the middle of it. So it's okay to ask for help. And yeah, I would say, you know, just take every day as it is. If, you know, most of what I do isn't about saving lives, right? I just run a food service company. So if something isn't perfect, it's not like we're gonna lose somebody. So that keeps it in perspective.
I appreciate you saying that too. As a new mom guilt's a thing, and juggling this role and
Right.
becoming a new mom. I mean, my husband's home right now taking care of our sick kids, so it's just funny how Yeah, roles aren't typical, but mom guilt is a thing, but it's okay to have that, but let it go too. Another question we have you faced any challenges you didn't expect since you became president of NorthCenter? If yes, what steps did you take to overcome them?
Oh boy, that's a good question. And it comes from a dear, dear, dear friend who faces every challenge with me, sitting right next to me, my dear friend Bonnie. You know, I don't know if this is as much a challenge, but I wish I had started a memoir or notes so that I could write a book from my experience, because just when I think I've seen or heard it all, something comes walking through my door that you would have never expected. A pandemic, you know, that wasn't ideal. In the food service industry where they're shutting down restaurants, not great. But, you know, what I would say is we have a very strong team here. We can finish each other's sentences. Many of us have worked together for a long, long time. And those of us that haven't spent enough time together, that, you know, we kind of gel. And you got to surround yourself with people at all levels. We've got a great team here at all levels.
Another question is, how about speaking to supporting other women and making not the old boys network, but the old ladies network? I see women trying hard, but they get teared down by other women.
I don't know if I can speak to this from much perspective, because my staff here is 50-50. We've got half women, half men on the senior leadership team. You know, in some of our less traditional roles, like truck drivers and operations, less females. But where we might not have as many female leaders in those roles, we more than make up for it on some of the office functions and different departments. And not at entry levels, but at you know, the management level and whatnot. So I would say that you know, here we look at you for what you do for your job and your tasks and your skill set and your contributions. And I want to say I think we're gender blind here. And as you can see from my resume, I don't have a whole lot of experience working outside of here. I think my only other job where I remember there being a real male-female divide, and Rachel can attest to this, is the women at Whippers had to make the sandwiches and they weren't allowed to run the pizza oven. So I don't think that's changed.
Rachel agrees. She says, "Oh my gosh, yes." So you have a daughter.
Just remember, they put us near the cash, Rachel. They put us near the cash.
So you have a daughter, and your insights that you've seen. What is one thing you've always told her to keep back of her mind, or what's, you know, one thing you've always recommended her to have?
Oh, Miss Susie. She's, you know, they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You know, no truer words spoken about me and Miss Susie. And I think the one thing I have to remind myself of and try to keep her strong on is, you know, have a voice. And if you don't like something, or if it's, you know, it's a lot easier to reel a kid back than it is to shove a kid forward. So she's spunky and she speaks her mind, and she especially does it to me. And I find it really irritating. But at the same point in time, I can't, right? Yeah, totally. And, but, you know, I know it'll serve her well later in life that she's got a voice, and there's no one, male or female, that's going to push that kid around. I can assure you of that.
So you mentioned Simon for a good TED Talk, but any other good books or other good TED Talks, or anybody else you would recommend for us to read or watch?
Oh, boy, I'm going to have to think about that one. Let me get back to you, Katie. I'll give you some suggestions on that. Maybe you can email it out to the crew in a follow-up. because I do have some, quick. I mean, I probably could spin around in my chair. I'm not good at remembering authors and book titles, but there's some pretty quick reads out there that, you can just keep on the corner of your desk, and when you get a minute, you read a few pages of it, and it just, the light bulb comes off with some of those things about tips and tricks that you can do to better yourself and have better presence with your teams.
Yeah, if you want to send me that list, we can get that out to everyone that registered. Karen would like to know who inspires you as a female leader.
Who inspired me as a female leader? I have to say, going up through my career, most of my mentors were men. Alan Ryan was exceptionally helpful to me over the years. Dave Kroll, his right hand, who was my boss for many, many of my years. And then on to Greg Piper, those three guys, and Tim Holt as well from an operations perspective. If you can imagine, I'm a banker's daughter. I grew up in a neighborhood of all boys, and I work in the food service industry. It's been nice to have more women come into this industry over the years, and we're still working on that. There really haven't been that many female leaders. There's certainly some folks in the organizations that I've worked that have been strong females, and there have been good relationships built there. But I have to say that when I look back at where maybe my sixth grade math teacher, Mrs. Kasparius, she was a strong woman. I liked her. I think she gave me my love of math too.
Perfect. So we have about 4 or 5 young professionals in the community that are in our KLI class right now on the call. What are some, advice you would give to the young professional females in the community?
Well, first of all, I would say good for you for participating in KLI. Great program. I especially like how the chamber has revamped it to maybe build your skill set a little bit more than the older classes of us that went through. From a professional development standpoint, whenever I've been given the opportunity to improve myself, I take it, no matter what is on the docket. If I was pregnant, if I, whatever was coming at me, you find a way to do it if somebody asks you and offers to help you improve yourself. That's one thing. And, continue your own path. There's so many different things that you can do. I'll share with you that recently I was on a call where it was a presentation on Office 365. I don't know how many of you out there work in Office 365. At my state in my career now, I don't do as much of the day-to-day grind of the work, but I like to try and stay up on those different software platforms. I took a course, I found it really interesting, and started thinking about all of the different reasons that we should be using this more. And we just had another training course with the executives here. Again, probably the folks that won't be driving a lot of the content, but I think it's important that they know about it, they know about the functionality. I mean, boy, the world is changing on how we do business. I mean, just in this past year, think of how much better we've all become on whether it's Zoom or Microsoft Meetings or WebExes, and getting better at presenting in this forum. And I think there's ways that you can always be improving yourself. And as young professionals, I mean, I think of myself on more of the older end of the working spectrum now. We kind of look to the younger professionals to bring some of those technological advances and creativity to the workplace. And so embrace all of that. And if you're good at something and you've learned something in school, speak up. And if it can help your place of business do business more efficiently, don't be scared to say something and get it out there, get it in front of us older folks who probably don't know about it.
Bonnie would like to know, what are the top 3 pieces of advice you've received over your career that you have found to be true?
Didn't I just lay those all out in the presentation, Bonnie? Listen, number 1 is if you have an administrative assistant, they're the boss. That's number 1.
That's a good answer, Bonnie, right?
The boss. I'll tell you, honestly, she is my godsend. She has taught me more about good time management and how to, it's okay to let tasks go that maybe you're good at, maybe you like, but you've got to remember what seat you're sitting in. And if somebody else can do it, let them do it. And if they can do it better than you, more than likely, let them do it. So that's a big piece of advice. I always try to be on time, right? It's just kind of a basic one. I try not to be late for things and be prepared. Those are just some of the basic ones.
Perfect. Does anybody else have any other questions or would like to unmute themselves and say anything to Michele?
Hi, Michele. It's Christine.
Hi.
I just so appreciate it. Really glad I took time to tune in today because a lot of the things that you said really were refreshing to me. And I just want to make one comment going back to earlier when we were sort of talking about gender things. And my testament to this is in the early 80s, I was in cable and communications, and I was the only female in my department and the only female in the departments that interacted us. It was sales and engineering. And at that time, what I figured out to do is try to be gender blind about myself. That it's my role here is not about my gender. I am going forward and you can either help me or get out of my way, you know. And I found lots of great people to help me and they were jerks, you know. So, you know, it's kind of like life is the same almost all over the place. There's good people and bad. Now, certainly sometimes it's really nice to have other women that are cheering you on and you find those people too. But I just wanted to chime that in because that really was helpful to me. And there certainly were people were in my way that I could have interpreted that it was about my gender. But in the end, I was the boss. And that felt great. And thank you for Michele for reminding us not to be always apologizing. I appreciate that. And thanks for talking to us today.
Thank you. I think you framed that up well. I mean, I think I look at myself oftentimes when I'm walking into my sales team to do a presentation and there's 80 people in the room and the majority of them are men. I don't feel like I'm a female getting up and talking to a room of 80 men. I just feel like I was either the vice president of sales or the president of the company addressing my very, very important resource, the sales team.
Pat, did you have something to say? I think you unmuted yourself earlier. No, you're good? Okay. All right.
Katie?
What was that?
Can I say one more thing?
Always, Christine.
Well, see, this is why I was quiet, because I get going and then you have to shut me up.
No, I love when meetings are interactive, so it's great.
I just want to say that, as I said, over a period of years, I became in a position where I was the manager. And then I hope I wasn't too biased, but then I did look for, then I got to that position by working hard and doing the kinds of things Michele was talking about. And then I could look for opportunities to help women advance. I mean, equally qualified, you try not to be biased and all that, but I did look for opportunities to either do that or just befriend women that were in organizations that I was in that, you know, we could be helping each other in that way. So that's all I want to say.
And I want to mention too, Tamara Lilly put a thing in the chat that she does offer public speaking coaching. So if anybody would like that, Tamara is on the call and I'm sure you could reach out if she has her information right in the chat for you if you'd like to help with that side of your professional development.
Tamara, make sure you fill out the survey and give me some good feedback.
Perfect. Well, I mean, Unless there's any other last minute questions, I'll wait a couple minutes if anybody else wants to say anything or submit a question in the chat. Michele, before I close it out, do you have any other closing remarks or anything you would like to say?
No, I just say, if throw out there, if I can be of help to any of you, if you ever have something you just want to bounce an idea, Katie's got my contact information. When it comes to my girl tribe, Katie calls and I can never say no. Same with Courtney over at the United Way. They're good people and good resources, and I think we have a great community of women in the Kennebec Valley Chamber of Commerce Women's Network, and there's plenty of resources. You just have to pick up the phone and call.
All right. Great presentation, Michele. Thank you so much. So you guys will get
All right, you guys are kind. Thank you. You
guys will get emailed a survey to fill out, and the Chamber has donated a Liberal Cup gift card for today's drawing. So everybody who fills out the survey will be entered to win in that. So you'll receive that email after this. I want to thank you, Michele, again for your time today. Thank you to Maine State Credit Union again for being our sponsor for this year for our Women's Luncheon Series. This is the last time we will be meeting this year, so I can't wait to see you guys all in January. Happy holidays to everyone, and reach out to the Chamber if we can do anything for you. See you later.